Honourable Anne Tolley.
Mr Speaker, well, I'm absolutely astounded. I am absolutely amazed to hear in this House that after 9 years of Labour, in the best years, in fact they were described as the best years of a generation, the golden years, government surpluses that we could only dream of, everything going for them, and under a Labour government, the real after-tax increase in wages was 3%. 3% after 9 years. And that happened in the first 4 years. And the members opposite say that's rubbish. Well, we know they didn't listen to advice. We know they never listened to any of that advice. They didn't help New Zealand. They didn't help ordinary New Zealanders. With all that, they didn't help ordinary New Zealanders by reducing taxes, right up until the last when they thought they were going to lose an election. In fact, they drove up government spending. They did what Labour governments have done. Every time they get into government and they get a bit of money, they spray it round like confetti. Anyone that had a little program, that had a little itch, they scratched it by dishing out heaps of money. And they had programs, and they had plans, and they had strategies, and they had initiatives. And what did that achieve? 3% in real increase in wages of 3% over 9 years. That is pathetic, absolutely pathetic. And then when they were kicked out by the public, because they knew they were pathetic, they left the incoming national government with an economic mess. They left a government absolutely riddled with promises for expenditure. I came into tertiary education as the minister and found $500 million promised but not funded. $500 million. Then that was right throughout the sector. Young people out of jobs, out of school, no skills and no literacy and numeracy. And that is the most outrageous thing that previous Labour government did. They failed the young people of New Zealand. They knew what they needed to do. In fact, Trevor Mallard, as opposition spokesman in 1998, said a national system of benchmark testing was needed so principals and teachers could significantly raise standards in schools and help New Zealand to regain its status as a world leader in education. So he knew in 1998. They knew from research that was done, like the best emphasis evidence synthesis. They knew from the strengthening education in Mangere and Otara. They knew what had to be done to lift the numeracy and literacy skills of young children in our schools. And what did they do? They ignored it, and they let those kids fail. For 10 years they stood by and watched as the unions stopped them from implementing what Trevor Mallard knew had to be done, setting benchmarks so that we clearly understood what children needed to know and by when. And so what was the first thing this national government did? We introduced those national standards that Trevor Mallard talked about. So last century, they said, so last century. What about the kids that are suffering in this century because they didn't get that help from so last century Labour government? Well, this government has acted, and quite frankly, the previous Labour government should hang its head in shame for failing up to 1 in 5 New Zealand children in our schools. Up to 1 in 5. That's 150,000 odd kids. How many of those have been cast out onto the streets in this recession with not only no skills or qualifications, but not able to read and write and do maths anywhere near the level that they need to get an apprenticeship or a skilled job, even a semi-skilled job. And when you talk to some of the employers out there, they shake their heads and say, how could a compulsory education system allow kids to go through for 8 and 9 years and come out unable to write a sentence, fill in a simple employment form, How could that happen? And that government, that previous government, knew what to do. There was good research put out on the Pearl study of 2001, and that research said change what's happening for those kids, and they didn't do it.
David Parker.